Hello everybody. Today we are here with Japhy Hunt. He is featured in our current exhibit titled Connection in Place. And he's come in to tell us a little bit about himself and about his artwork. Hey Japhy, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
So I just have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
You are a local celebrity and we'd like to know a little bit about your background.
Okay. Well, my background, I guess it would mainly be in homeschooling is kind of where things started for me. During like the elementary school years, during homeschool, I kind of had a lot of time to figure out what things I like to do. And there was like a lot of traveling that my parents and I were able to do together for like 3 months at a time. And we'd go to like Mexico and stuff like that. And so it was like during that time that I really got to be able to express myself. There was like those times where I'm like sitting at like a dinner table at a restaurant, I could just doodle and do stuff like that. So that's kind of my background of like facilitating things. And I was also a kid that just consumed like a ton of like quirky movies and films. So it's kind of the mixing of those two things that really, yeah.
Cool. Have you taken lessons or are you just naturally awesome at drawing?
For drawing, it was pretty much self-taught.
Yep.
I've been drawing since I can remember. It wasn't until high school that I really started like taking an art class, which I was just so stoked about because then it allowed me to like use different mediums that I never used before.
Right.
But I still always gravitated back to my original paints, which are acrylic.
Okay.
And that's kind of always staged my same thing.
Right. You're obviously very imaginative. Do your ideas that are in your head match what ends up on paper, or is there some differences?
There is always like a bit of a struggle, definitely. I think for everybody, like when you're like trying to get that idea, some more times than others. I find that when that struggle happens to me more, it's when I'm really trying to convey a message over an image.
Right.
And then I'm trying to do that message justice. But when I'm starting with what I just want to draw, it comes out a lot easier. And I'm usually gravitating towards the things that I like to draw already. So that makes it pretty nice. But there's a bit of a honing phase where I'm like kind of going through a few drafts. And, yeah.
Okay. And what does your work aim to say?
It aims to talk about the world around me as I kind of see it. And that's what I've been really noticing, especially with this series and lately with all the stuff I've been working on. And it's funny, like I can start with just a drawing and then I'll find that it connects to something that I'm trying to say. You know, like sometimes it's subconscious, I guess. But yeah, I'm really trying to like focus on interactions a lot in day to day and just like seeing how everybody treats each other and how we have all these micro relationships all the time with everything. Like even if you're interacting with a patron at a workplace or a family member, there's some sort of relationship happening there. And I find that interesting. Yeah. And
what are your biggest influences in art and where do you draw your inspiration from?
Definitely so many cool ones. I would say Tim Burton was definitely the first influence. I watch Nightmare Before Christmas like probably 3 times a week. Not anymore, no. I just like know it by heart and I tried watching it recently. I was like, I love this movie, but I'm like, I know every line.
Right.
I actually like, just the other day I was going through like the soundtrack of the movie because it's very musical and my mom was like overhearing me singing it and she's like, you watched this when you're 5, like you still remember like every single lyric. So that was a huge influence and it kind of just like introduced me to this world where Halloween could exist outside of Halloween.
Right.
And I've been very interested in like dressing up in costumes and being monsters and kind of going outside of the box. So Tim Burton was a great playground for that. And then now in later years, recently I've been really into Edward Gorey,
Okay.
especially for like illustration. He's just like amazing at etching. He actually credited himself primarily as a writer,
Okay.
but he was definitely mainly an artist in my opinion.
Right.
Like you just pack these things. So I definitely do some etching in my pieces where it's applicable, like in fur or like textures. And then as far as storytelling, I definitely draw inspiration from him too. And he's very much about what's left unsaid
Okay.
in a situation, which I really like because it kind of forces the viewer to look closer into the picture and try and figure out what's going on. Like there might not be everything revealed
Right.
in the picture. So
Right.
yeah, I definitely like those two the most.
And would you say you attempt that within your artwork as well?
Yeah, definitely. I try and go with bare bones and like try and do, I love limitations.
Right.
It's like one of my favorite mottos with art, otherwise I get like seized up. So I definitely like with all of these pieces, it's all like white backgrounds. I haven't even bothered with backgrounds for these ones. So it's that limitation of no backgrounds and focusing on like a certain number of colors. Usually there's like only 3 or 4 that I do.
Okay.
And so yeah, I definitely focus on those cryptic things and then forcing people to just look at a pose that somebody is doing and what it means to the other character.
Right.
Yeah.
And your work seems to comment on social and political issues.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the specific pieces that comment on that?
So this one, so like all 3 of these are the Zenith Objects series.
Okay.
And I made it at the start of the pandemic because I was seeing in the papers and a lot of people talking a lot about xenophobia. And like anyone, I'm learning new terms throughout my lifetime, and I eventually learned that it's a fear of something foreign to you. And there's a really great multicultural community in Vancouver, but sometimes they get stepped on in certain situations, and that was definitely in the pandemic. I found that the community in Chinatown and the Asian community was being kind of singled out and feared that maybe they're bringing the pandemic in,
Right.
even if they haven't even been outside of Canada. So I thought that unfairness, I just wanted to kind of make a commentary on it in my way, which is in a quirky character setting with cookies and cards.
Right.
And I just kind of thought if it's ridiculous for cards to hate another card, it should be the same for humans. So yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite piece in this collection?
And it's funny because somebody asked me this today at the farmer's market, and I kind of told them that I have a favorite when I'm working on it, and that's like my favorite one. I'm just like so into it, and then as soon as the next one comes, that becomes my new favorite. Yeah, it's a very, I try and keep a healthy, temporary relationship with my pieces.
So your favorites evolve.
They evolve, yeah, and like I've loved all of them at some point, and then it's the process of letting go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of our interview. Thank you so much for coming. It's been so awesome chatting with you.
Thanks, Kate. It was awesome.